Is Autotune and Melodyne the same thing? After all, they're both tuning plugins. And if they're not the same thing, then when do you use each of them? Hey, what's up? My name is Cheskiefer from Y&I Recording Academy. Welcome back if you've been around here before, and welcome if you haven't. So today we're talking about Autotune versus Melodyne, and it's not really such a versus because it's not like they're really against each other, because I think each of them have their place. But to answer the simple question, is Melodyne and Autotune the same thing? Are they basically equals? Are they like, the FabFilter EQ or the Waves EQ? And the answer is, in my opinion, no, they're not equals. They do different things better than the other ones. So let's get right into it. So Autotune is the lead auto-correcting tuning software in the audio space right now. And Autotune has a feature, which is the most widely used feature, is called the auto mode. And this is why it's called Autotune, because it basically will, based on the settings that you give it, it will tune your vocal automatically. Autotune, automatically. So you give it the key, the scale, how aggressive you want it to be, and it just does its thing. You don't really have to touch it. There's no hands-on tuning necessarily. It just tunes by itself. So that's Autotune. Now, Autotune also has something called graph mode, and this is not as commonly used in Autotune. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's definitely very widely used, but most people, when they use Autotune, they use it for the auto feature. But Autotune has something called graph mode, and graph mode is a tuning mode that is manual tuning. So it's Autotune's version of manual tuning, and that in that mode, you could go ahead and literally edit each note after the performance is done. You could go ahead and edit each note. You say this note is a half a step down, this note is a half a step up, straighten it all out, and that's literally the manual tuning process. So it's definitely not Autotune anymore. Autotune can technically do its thing live, meaning as we're singing, Autotune will just do its thing, but manual tuning definitely only happens after the performance is done, and then we could go in and tweak it. It's more of like an editing thing than an automatic thing. So those are the two types of tuning modes, Autotune and manual tuning. And Autotune, the plugin Autotune, it's getting a little confusing over here. Autotune, the plugin Autotune comes with both modes. It has the Autotune and it has the graph mode. Now we get into Melodyne. So what does Melodyne consist of? Melodyne is only the graph mode. So Melodyne is only in a manual tuner. It does not have an auto mode. It's only for after the performance is done, you go ahead and you can edit the performance. Now, Melodyne, when it comes to manual tuning, is so much more widely used than Autotune, because Melodyne specializes in maintaining the integrity of the performance, meaning it keeps it as natural as possible without it sounding auto-tuned. That auto-tuned sound that we know sounds like a little electric or a little bit processed. Melodyne specializes in making it sound as least processed as possible. So that's my answer. My answer is, when it comes to manual tuning, I like to use 9 times out of 10, or really 99 times out of 100, I like to use Melodyne, because it's a super subtle effect. You don't really hear it. When it comes to auto-tuning, I love Autotune, because Autotune, not only does it do a great job at auto-tuning the notes, but it also gives this like commercial color to the vocal that has nothing to do with tuning. It's just the fact that your vocal is running through Autotune gives it some sort of sound that the modern age is so used to hearing, and it definitely brings up the vocal to like a commercial standard. So when it comes to auto-tuning, I like to use Autotune. When it comes to manual tuning, I like to use Melodyne. So if you really think about it, Autotune has its place and Melodyne has its place. Now the question is, when do you utilize auto-tuning and when do you utilize manual tuning? So I like to use them in conjunction with each other. So basically what I'll do is I'll have Melodyne going through Autotune. So if I'm using Melodyne ARA, then it's for sure going before Autotune. But if I'm not using Melodyne ARA, it will be the first plugin in the chain will be Melodyne, and the second plugin in the chain will be Autotune. So this way, when I'm manually tuning my notes, I'm tuning into Autotune. So I'm hearing how Autotune will react to the notes that I'm tuning it to. Because I like having Autotune on my vocals in moderation. Of course, every project is different, so you have to know where the retune speed should be and what the scale should be, and sometimes if it should be there at all, Autotune. But 9 times out of 10, I like Autotune on my tracks in moderation again. But I do like to manually tune the entire performance, so it's that much more perfect and more spot on. And Autotune doesn't have to work as hard to get those notes. So basically, I use manual tuning and auto tuning in conjunction with each other. I manual tune just enough that the auto tune sounds nice, and this way I kind of get the best of both worlds. Now, I'll just give you a quick example of what I mean when I say I use Melodyne with Autotune. So I have a vocal here.
Sihu yidechem kodesh uvorchu These heilige hand.
Now, let me pull up Melodyne and show you what's happening here. So Melodyne is ARA in Pro Tools, and that means that Melodyne is on the clip, which means that it's before any plugin. So technically, Melodyne is before any plugin, so it's Melodyne going into Autotune, and as you see, the first plugin in my plugin chain is Autotune. Now, if I select this, you'll see I get Melodyne, and now if I select any note, it will be going through Autotune. So I'm going to mute the reverb because it can get a little bit much. And you can see in Melodyne that all the notes that are in my scale are white and all the notes that are not on my scale are grayed out. And that's basically all the notes that Autotune will not pay attention to. So Autotune will not pay attention to an A sharp in this case. It won't snap it to an A sharp. So even if I go into Melodyne and I make it an A sharp, it's either going to be an A or a B. Autotune's going to snap it to one of the two. You'll hear. Listen. That's a full step. That's not a half step. A half step would be if I disable Autotune. That is a half step. So you see that Autotune is really working while I'm doing my Melodyne edits. So let's say my performance was a little bit flat. All I have to do is move the performance up into a place where Autotune will grab it and sound nice. So I don't necessarily have to center all the notes. I really all I have to do is push up the notes a bit until Autotune grabs it. Now without Autotune, it still sounds slightly flat. But since I'm using Autotune, Autotune catches those little discrepancies and adds a little bit of color to our vocal like I mentioned before. So this is really how I like to use Autotune and Melodyne together. Again, quick recap, Autotune specializes in auto-tuning, Melodyne specializes in manual tuning, and I like to use manual tuning with auto-tuning together in my performance. All right, so that's all I got for now. Actually, that's not true. I got one more thing for you. If you're looking to start a home studio or upgrade your home studio and you're not exactly sure which gear you should be buying, I got you covered. I put together an entire PDF called my Home Studio Gear Guide. It's got options for every single budget, so no matter what budget you're in, you'll definitely find something in there, and it's completely free. So go ahead and download it. It's in the description below. And now, till next time.